Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I am I'm actually online and streaming kind of late tonight, but I thought I would just kind of check in with you guys because you know there's a lot to talk about, a lot going on in the world, and one of the things I was thinking about today was I was thinking about Bill Cosby, and I saw this story today in which they said that Bill Cosby is basically blind. That Cosby can't see anymore. Cosby's confined to his home. He can't go out, and and that made me really sad. I felt like I feel like Bill Cosby is a guy that most of us are quite familiar with, at least in a public sense. We we grew up on him. If you're my age, I'm 45. If you're 45 and up, then you know all about Fat Albert. You know all about all the years that he was just one of the kings of comedy, one of the original real kings of comedy, not self-proclaimed kings of comedy. And to kind of see him sort of fall from grace like that, not to mention all the other stuff that's been going on. It's just kind of sad. That brother is he's a man that's you know uh I don't know. He's a man that is that well we I guess he has a mixed legacy. It's like, how do you sort of balance the way we feel about Cosby, the way we always felt about him, with all these allegations and all this craziness that was going on, and then balance that with the racism of this society. And because it's hard not to talk about a black man being accused of sexually assaulting a white woman without sort of talking about the backdrop, right? Talking about the black backdrop on on race in America and stuff like that. um I'll say this, that for Cosby, it's very interesting. My perception of Cosby has always been extremely mixed. I've seen him as a guy who was quite admirable, in the sense that what he did in entertainment was really remarkable. Not just in terms of his success level, but the fact that he did a lot of things he didn't have to do. When Cosby was running a different world. And it's funny, I've been able to recently get more insight into Cosby, just a little bit, because I've actually become pretty decent friends with Daryl Bell, who played Ron, Dwayne Wayne's friend on Different World, as well as Tempest Bledsoe, who played Vanessa on the show. I've sat for hours and hours talking to both of them. And and it's interesting kind of hearing about things kind of behind the scenes that the public didn't really know, and kind of seeing things in hindsight 20 something years later. I'll say this: Daryl and Tempest, in case you guys don't know, they're actually a couple. They've been together for 20 something years, and the difference between this relationship and other relationships is that they don't really market their relationship. A lot of these celebrities will go out and deliberately make sure they tell you who they're dating, and who they having sex with, and and the last time they did it, and what position they did it in. And they tell you all this stuff to basically make you basically make you become intrigued with them. Like Beyonce's whole thing. Beyonce, and Jay-Z, I think they play it very well. They pretty much market their relationship and use that to make money, because they're people that are more obsessed with their life than with their own. They're more focused on what Jay-Z and Beyonce are doing than on what they're doing, which I think is absolutely strange. It's very weird to see people do that, but it's like, whatever. I'm not going to judge you for it. I just encourage you to get a life. So let's talk about Cosby. Let's have maybe a real conversation about him, right? If you follow me, you kind of know that I'm not really somebody who jumps on too many bandwagons. I just tell it like it is. So half the time I'm pissing off white people, and the other half the time I might be pissing off some black people. That's why I ain't got no friends, and I don't want no friends, because I want to be able to tell the truth based on what I see, Not that I have a monopoly on the truth, because your truth might be more relevant to you. I encourage you to critically think. I encourage critical thinking, period, not bandwagon thinking. And actually, before we dig into that, I wanted Frank is saying that he got my app. Thank you, Frank. And anybody else who wants the app, you can actually download the Dr. Boyce Watkins app. Just go to your Android or your Apple store and just type in my name, Boyce Watkins, and my app will come down, and it'll give you, alerts every time I do videos and stuff like that. I don't think live streams are incorporated, but videos are incorporated. If you want to see some of my live streams, I go live sometimes on the Black Knowledge page or on the Dr. Boyce Watkins Facebook page. Also, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net, not .com. That's drboycewatkins.net. So you can get a free e-copy of the book. I hope that you'll read it. It's not a hard read. You can probably read it maybe in 3 hours. Also, your children. I would love for your children to read it too, because your children, that's really our future. That's why we're here. We're here to really plant seeds for the next generation. So if you do that, then what's going to happen is eventually black people will turn the ship around. We will win. We will be ahead of the game. We will become the dominant, the dominant race in America at some point if we're focused. And I really believe that. And I'm not saying I want to dominate other people or hurt other people, but I'm saying that I want us to get ahead. I want us to not sort of feel like we're behind and we're fighting and we're scared and all this other stuff. Now, Sherry says she gets a text every time I go live. Now, I didn't know that you can actually get that set up, but if there's a way to set that up, then I would love for you guys to do that. Sherry, if you know how to do that, feel free to email me and tell me how to do that. My email address is boyce@boycewatkins.com. That's boyce@boycewatkins.com. So if you email me, you'll get an autoresponder, because I get a lot of emails and it's hard for me to keep up with all of them. But it gives you connections to my whole team, my second and third in command, because I try to have a good team, a good structured team, so that when people reach out, I'm able to provide support for everybody who reaches out without them sort of feeling like, hey, Boyce blew me off, man, because I hit that dude up on an email and he ain't even say nothing. It's really, honestly, it's really because I'm working. I'm big on productivity. I'm big on working. When I was in grad school, get my PhD, I'm not kidding, they used to literally call me the machine. The white boys, I was the only black person in the program, so you can imagine how I felt. It was like a damn torture chamber dealing with them damn crazy racist SOBs, but I just fought through it. And he told me behind my back, he said, yeah, we used to call you the machine because you used to just work every day. And that's one thing I talk to black men about, or really anybody listening, but especially like young black men, stuff like that. It's about being focused and working hard every day. We have a lot of cultural things that teach us, stupid things that aren't going to help you, like sitting around, smoking weed all day, or drinking a whole lot, or bragging about how high you are. Like, I think that's really weird that we have rappers that are proud of being high all the time. And it doesn't make any sense to me, because you can't compete if you're high all the time. I mean, imagine if you're going on the basketball court and you high and drunk. You're not going to score no points. You're going to lose. You're going to look like an idiot. So who would want to look like an idiot all the time? And the other crazy thing that people don't understand is that there's a lot of people in prison for things that they did while they were under the influence. There's a whole lot of brothers that's locked down for 40, 50 years for stuff they did that they don't even remember doing. I saw this crazy story one time with this brother who had hit some weed. His friend gave him some weed, and he hit the weed, and he didn't know the weed was laced. So, because now the weed, Minister Farrakhan talked about this on the Breakfast Club. He said, when I was young, he said, I used to smoke reefers. That's what he said, reefers with an S. He said, the reefers that I used to smoke, that's different from what y'all smoke today. You know how Minister Farrakhan talks, right? Love that brother, love him to death. And he said that, and basically this brother who hit this weed that had something in it, he went on a killing spree. He literally went and was carjacking people. He murdered somebody. He punched a girl in the face. So when he came back to life mentally, he had all these charges on him. And they said he was 19. I mean, his life hadn't even started yet. And he said, they asked him, they said, so he looked like a good guy too. Like, I listened to him talk, and I was like, man, this seems like a dude where if I knew him as a kid, I could probably talk to him. I could probably persuade him to pick up a book or do a lot of things, because he looked like a good kid who was just following the crowd. And he was talking about what they said he did while he was high, and he said, and he was talking about it, just being as honest as he could be. He's like, yeah, they told me I did this and did that, and I don't remember none of it. And they said, so what do you think your punishment should be? He said, well, I guess I deserve the death penalty. And that's just real sad, because I think there's a lot of brothers who feel like they deserve the death penalty. I think they feel like they either deserve the death penalty or they want to deliver the death penalty to somebody else, And so when I hear about brothers maybe that are maybe going out killing cops or killing each other or doing anything like that, I really kind of see guys that have just kind of been so mistreated by the world that they just decide they want to commit suicide, And I always say that the most dangerous man in the room is the man who has nothing to lose. That's the most dangerous person in the room. And you might know this because we've been talking about Gavin Long, aka Cosmo, the brother who was accused of shooting those cops in Baton Rouge. And I read about how he went in there, man, and just was literally hunting those cops. I was like, whoa. I mean, it reminded me of a Rambo kind of situation. If you remember the movie Rambo wasn't messing with nobody. He was just trying to walk through town. But cops kept messing with him. They kept messing with him, and then he lost it. He went back into military mode. And the thing about Cosmo, I'm calling him Cosmo because that's his nickname, is Cosmo was trained by the Marines. People, and I was getting all these calls from these white reporters who knew that Cosmo was in my class, and I didn't know the brother. I did sign a book for him one time. I found out that later, but I didn't know him. And the thing about Cosmo was, his brother was a Marine, and they, how white people are. White people want to think that black men hanging together, that us congregating is some sort of threat to national security, that I must have been teaching him some magic secret formula that led him to want to go out and, do stuff to other people. And I was like, well, no. I said, he was in my class I teach with Damon Dash, Intelligent Boss Moves, that attracts a lot of young black males because they look up to us. They look up to strong black men because you don't have a lot of strong black men in mainstream media. Mainstream media consists of either brothers who are entertainers or athletes or coons or politicians or whatever. So when they see real, I really believe real recognizes real. Strength recognizes strength. And Damon Dash and I will say that we are very strong men. We take very good pride in that. But being strong ain't about being strong all the time. It's about committing yourself to being strong. It's not about being the best. It's about doing your best to be your best whenever you can be. So that's why we attract brothers like that. But I said, look, I taught him. I didn't teach him how to kill nobody. I said I taught him how to start a business. I said the Marines taught him how to kill people. So if you want to know where he learned, where he got his, so supposedly, murderous instinct or the killer instinct, go talk to his Marine recruiter. That's where he learned how to kill. I just taught him how to build a business, and it stimulated his brain in this, maybe critical thinking, things like that, so anyway, let's jump in. Let's jump back into Cosby. Okay, before we move on, if you're watching on Facebook, if you could do us a small favor and hit the share button and just each one teach one, share this to your personal page so that people on your page can benefit. Also, if I mention a URL, if somebody can type in the URL as we're talking, that would be really cool. Just because we have the blackbusinessschool.com, which is where we teach business and all kinds of stuff for black people, and it helps us pay bills so that so that we can do this independent. One of the things I really want to do is develop independent black media empires. That's why I don't get excited when CNN or anybody calls me anymore. I used to back in 07, 08, 09, 010. I used to want to go on those media outlets because that was all I had. Now we're actually able to reach millions of black people by ourselves every week without asking for nobody's help. We ain't cooning for white people. We ain't trying to go out and beg for money for corporations. You ain't gonna see me trying to get a show on BET, VH1, CBS, NBC, none of that, because I want to talk to my people in a more of a grassroots fashion. But just because you're grassroots don't mean you can't be corporate. By the way, I see Akila wrote blackbusinessschool.com. It's actually the blackbusinessschool.com. That's THE. Put in the blackbusinessschool.com. So we always do the THE. And actually we do have the Black Wealth Boot Camp too, if you're interested in that also. That starts in August. So moving on. And I use the THE just so you know. I got that thought came to mind because I remember when I got my PhD. I remember I finished at Ohio State, and I remember the president or the chancellor, whatever the hell she was, gave a speech, and she was like, and when you tell people where you went to school, you tell them that you graduated from the Ohio State University. And I was like, I like that. I like the. That's right. We are the. We are the one and only You ain't gonna get nothing else out here. Like, best HBCU in the country. Why? Because we can be really black. We can be truly authentic to who we are. There's no bureaucracy, and we ain't gonna charge you $100,000 to be here for 4 years. It'll cost you far less than that, like a couple $100 a month max, less than that for most people. So, and you get to learn from real professors who actually know how to do stuff. Them universities don't have people. They can't say we got the founder of Rockefeller Records on our faculty. Okay, so if you think you can't learn from Damon Dash, then you're crazy, because his brother's actually incredibly brilliant. He's Damon Dash, so he got an interesting personality, but he's a brilliant dude. So anyway, let's move on. Let's jump back to Cosby. Okay, so with Cosby, when you see that Cosby's allegedly blind now, one thing that we do know is we know that justice is not blind. And I think that with Cosby, what was really interesting about his legacy, or what has been, is that he's kind of this mixed bird for a lot of us, where on one hand you saw this guy just really holding it down in terms of how he did Different World, how he did the Cosby Show. He didn't have to make that show black. I'm gonna tell you a secret. I see a lot of these people in Hollywood, because we're now making movies, like we're making Steel Justice, stuff like that, which actually has a similar narrative to the Cosby thing, in that it's one of the storylines is a black man played by Richard T. Jones, who's a former athlete who's accused of raping a white woman. And one of the things I can tell you is that it's really strange how in Hollywood you got all these like black mega celebs. I'm talking about black people who are like household names, who are doing these really popular shows that everybody's watching every week. And I swear to God, if you go on these sets and you look at who's doing the writing, who's doing the directing, who's doing the producing, it's like you're surrounded by white people. The only place that black people exist on some of these sets is like in the on the stage, like the actual performers. And that's cool, but black people can do more than sing and dance. Black people can do more than just, act and entertain. Black people, we can do everything that you can do in a movie. We can shoot, we can write, we can direct, we can hold the boom mic, we can do all of that. So why is it that we can be producers and assistant producers and all that? Why? Where are the black people? I mean, it's weird to me. It's weird. In fact, I'm gonna give Dame some shit about this when I talk to him. Dame's on a show called Music Moguls, and I got to be real with you. I got to be honest when I'm talking about this stuff, because Damon and I have a movie coming out. The other executive producers, Kanye West. It's called Too Honorable, and it's coming out next month. If you know anything about battle rap, Murder Mook is in the movie, and Murder Mook, he's a cool dude, and he's the undisputed world champion in battle rap, which means he's probably a genius, because you got to be a genius to be a really good battle rapper. Cameron's in it, who's a very charismatic actor. A lot of other good people. So Damon and I have a movie coming out. We do the Intelligent Boss Move stuff together. He's my man. But when we get on the radio again, I'm literally gonna ask him, like, what's up with all the white people all the time? Like, why is it that on this show, one of my friends, Dr. Tyra Selden, called me up, and she said, I was watching Music Moguls, and I was kind of concerned, because when I saw Snoop and Dame and Birdman, she said all their whole team was like white people. Every publicist, all the publicists, the advisors, the lawyers, all of them were white. And I said, well, I don't know exactly why that is. I said, I'm gonna ask them about that. And I think what a lot of times we'll say something like, well, some people will say, all I care about is green. All I care about is making money. I just want to hire the best person, no matter what their race is. And I'm gonna tell you, that's the wrong thinking from the jump. You don't want to think that way, because everybody else, ain't nobody else thinking that way. Those Jewish people that are getting your business, they're getting your business, but they're not giving you no business back. They ain't gonna hire no black people. They're gonna hire other Jewish people, because that's what they do in their community. So those white folks, they ain't giving no business back. Those Asians, they ain't giving you nothing back. They gonna go hire their friend from China, because they understand from a cultural standpoint for thousands of years that sticking together is part of their economic survival process, or they're just their social and political survival process as well. The economics ties back to everything. So So I think that we have to educate each other on the fact that this kumbaya, like I'm gonna just hire the best person for the job no matter what kind of thing, first of all, it's racially biased, because a black person can easily be the best person for the job. If you're always looking for the best person for the job and they always end up being white, that means you're not looking in the right places or something like that, because I know a lot of really talented black people. But then number two, I think patience is required for those individuals, because some of them just don't know, because I told Dr. Selden, I said, well, my theory is this. I said, my theory is that, look, if you a brother from the hood, and all you wanted to do was rap and get a record deal, and a white man walks up and says, by golly, Young Thug, you're a great artist, we can sell you, Young Thug. Well, he's already got infrastructure set up. Young Thug, the question is, how many people does Young Thug actually know who have education to become publicists, who have the education to be lawyers or financial advisors? Probably not that many people. I don't know. I'm not speculating, but I don't get the sense Young Thug hangs out with people who went to Harvard. So he gets sucked into this system that's validated him, right? Because that's what it is. That's what we define as making it. When white people decide they like us and start giving us money, then we call up our mama and say, "Mama, I made it," right? So Young Thug is pulled in, and this Jewish record label executive who kind of does to him what your boy did, Jerry Heller did with NWA. He offers him some sort of nigga deal. That's what they call them nigga deals, where they just give you any little bit amount of money, where they're making this much and you're getting that much. If you don't understand business, you'll get the nigga deal. That's why I tell artists like D1, when I talk to D1 all the time, we have counseling sessions and we talk more about business than we talk about music every day of the week. And so they give them the nigga deal, and then what they do also is they put the people around them, they position people around them. So they say, hey, Young Thug, I want you to meet Misty Smith. She's the best publicist in the game. And I want you to meet James Zarpakovich. He's the best attorney in the game. And then I want you to meet so-and-so Katzenberg, and he's the person that's going to be your A&R, right? And next thing you know, he's surrounded by all these people that are not from his community. And where do the brothers fit? The brothers will fit either if he's doing records and he hooks his homies up with record deals and they're on the album with him, or they're part of the entourage, right? They just rolling with him, hanging out with him, ain't got no real job, ain't really got nothing going on, but they just there, right? And he's just kind of siphoning money off to him until he goes broke. That's kind of what sort of happens. They sort of get occupied, right? That's why I say education is so important, because if you don't have education, then somebody else who is educated is going to come along and kind of manipulate and position you in a way that does not benefit you, but it'll be a way that benefits them. Now, then you have the other side. You have the other side of that. Now, before I mention the other side, let me do my 10-second commercial break. If you haven't shared this to your page, could you please hit the share button? Also, if you haven't picked up a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can get it at drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And if you call those URLs, please type that in for me so that other people can see it. And also, if you want to teach wealth building to your kids, we have an awesome wealth building program for children at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Now, let's jump back into the conversation. Okay, so we're talking about Cosby and things Cosby was doing for the black community that he didn't have to do. Well, so if you go a little bit deeper, you look at, we use the Young Thug example. Young Thug don't know no lawyers, he don't know no accountants, he don't know any, publicists or business managers, so he's going to probably take the recommendations that are, put in front of him by his record label. Well, I would imagine, I would be willing to bet you, though, that if I was to hang out with an artist like a J. Cole, I don't know J. Cole's team, but I bet you my last dollar that if you look at J. Cole's team, I bet you Jay has smart black people around him who are doing jobs other than just helping him rap. And I think part of that is because, number one, he's educated, which means he has a certain conscientiousness that's developed where he understands the importance of buying black. Buying black doesn't mean just buying goods from black people. Buying black also means buying labor from black people, right? Incorporating black people within the infrastructure of your business in a way that doesn't just just degrade them into becoming just an entertainer for white people. Also, he went to college. I think he went to Howard or something like that. So he probably has friends. Yes, Sonia's asking, is it blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com? Yes, it's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's our wealth building program for children. And also, just before I forget, in case you, we have a really cool financial coaching program that doesn't cost much. It's at askdrboyce.com. That's askdrboyce.com. And on this, in this program, what you can do is you can actually ask me any financial question you want, and you write your question in. I have to give you a personalized video response within 10 days. So that's how we do it. So that's askdrboyce.com. The first month is free. So try it out. See if you like it. If you like it, hang out, because it's really good advice and information. And by grouping people together, we can keep the cost down. Okay. So back to what I was saying. So I would expect like a J. Cole, to have more black people around him. So I think that what happens is that there are these systems that affect us. There are all these systems that affect how black people do business, how black people interact with the world, how we do commerce with each other, how we do commerce with other ethnicities. And unfortunately, white people and Jewish people understand these systems very well. And so if you think about it, imagine if I'm traveling and I arrive in somebody's hood because I'm on vacation, and I come to their hood and there's a system, there's a way things are done in that hood, but I'm not from that hood, so I don't know how things are done. Well, if somebody wants to exploit me, they can do that very easily. Why? Well, because I don't know the neighborhood. So when you arrive and you're not educated on systems and how business works and money and all that, then you're going to be walking into somebody else's hood and they can kind of guide you wherever. Think about it. If you get to a new town where you don't know anybody and you're like, well, where do I go to find a bathroom? They're like, oh, the bathroom's this way. Or where can I get some food? Oh, you want to go to this restaurant. This is the best restaurant in town. You're going to believe that because you don't know any better, right? So ultimately, that's why it's very important that our children are trained on how business models work and monetization and distribution and consumption and production and everything, so that when they hit adulthood, they're able to kind of say, young thug can say, instead of saying, hey, how much money am I gonna get? Where the bitches in the weed at? He's not doing that. He's actually getting there saying, okay, I read clause 3.4 in my contract, and I'm concerned about the fact that you just told me that you have all rights to my music in perpetuity throughout the universe. I'm not comfortable with that, so I need to go to my friend Malik Shabazz, who is my attorney, and Malik is going to review this just to make sure everything's on the up and up. Oh, and by the way, I know you have your people that you want me to hire with my money as my publicist and as my lawyer and as my accountant, but I've got some other people I'd like to include in the pool of people that we work with, so that you're not sort of double dipping on me, right? Because that's what happens. They'll double dip on you. They'll be like, okay, well, I'm gonna get my cut because I'm your manager, but then I'm gonna hook up all my friends and have you pay my friends too, right? And so ultimately, that's how communities take care of each other. So I think that black people have to understand how that game works. So let's circle back around. We were talking about Bill Cosby. In case you just chimed in, we were talking about Bill Cosby and how the doctors have just announced that Bill Cosby is officially blind and completely blind. Now, do I think that this is some sort of ploy for public approval or for people to feel bad for him, sympathy or whatever? It probably is. I mean, that's probably part of the reason they're announcing it, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. I mean, I think Cosby, I do remember seeing him and seeing his eyes, and he always had the funny thing going on with his eye, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all that this is really happening. And I think that Cosby deserves a lot of credit for what he did with those shows, with the Cosby Show, with A Different World. But then you move forward. What else did Cosby do that was awesome? Cosby, gave more money to HBCUs. I think that any celebrity to date, I don't think any celebrities matched the donations he and Camille made back in the 1980s. So it's been almost 30 years and nobody's come close to that. And so all these celebrities that might be critical of Cosby or anybody else have to remember, Cosby did something that y'all would never do. He wanted to send black children to college, and he understood the value of education. And really, I really felt awkward that, Spelman College, a place that has benefited tremendously from, from his support, that they felt the need to kind of completely distance themselves from him. I don't know. I mean, it's a mixed thing, right? I mean, because if he did these things to women, in your schools for women, I mean, how do you really kind of hold the banner up for a man who might have done these things? I'm giving you money in one hand, but I'm giving you roofies in the other. If that was what happened. And I think anybody who's running around here saying that it definitely did not occur, I would be very careful about that, because you don't know, you weren't there. And eyewitness testimony does mean something. And again, but here's the thing though, it doesn't mean though that there wasn't a conspiracy. It doesn't mean that they didn't set him up. Sometimes people can form a conspiracy and set you up because they know that you have a weakness, you have a secret, you have a vulnerability, you've done something wrong, right? So, my thought was that, if you want to know what I really think, I really do believe Cosby probably did a lot of things he shouldn't have done. At least at the very least, I think there's a concern about the idea of a man being 60-something years old and meeting these 19-year-old girls who look up to him as a grandfather figure and trying to have sex with them. That just seems a little bit strange. I've mentored young ladies like 18, 19 years old, and even when I was 29 or 30, I wouldn't have felt comfortable sleeping with a 19-year-old. But again, maybe my standards were too high. I have no idea. But I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable at the age of 65. And I'm married. That's the thing. I was a 29, 30-year-old single man, and I would meet a 18, 19-year-old and think, this girl's, she thinks she's a woman, but she ain't really no woman. She's a kid. She's a little kid. And so I think that, that right there enough is something that's like, whoa. And the fact that, he has such a margin of error. He was pretty much allowed to do whatever he wanted. I mean, Cosby could have slept with literally 1,000 women in his lifetime, 2,000 women, and people would still be like, okay, he's Bill Cosby, he's a man. But you got to really think about that. I mean, I don't really think you're supposed to have sex with that many people. I don't know how healthy that is for anybody, especially your spouse. But then you go deeper, and then you get into these allegations, and it becomes just this big muddled mess. It becomes literally the craziest thing, because, on one hand, you're like, okay, man, I mean, shoot, 30-something women, I mean, how am I going to ignore that, right? How do you ignore that? How does any logical person act like 30-something people are just lying? Again, conspiracy theories, stuff like that. There could be a conspiracy, but I don't know. It seems far-fetched to me, to be honest with you. It doesn't mean that there isn't a conspiracy to catch him, but it does not mean that the conspiracy involves making things up. Those are two different things. But then at the same time, you flip that into the other conversation, which is, some of these women that are jumping in and saying, oh, he did this, he did this, he did this, and he paid my tuition, he was sending me money, I went to see him 8 or 9 times. That just seems a little strange too, because for a lot of people, common sense people, I'm not talking about people that have an agenda, but people with an agenda always sort of defend their point of view in the extreme without looking for common fucking sense. Just common sense. Common sense, leads me to say, well, I mean, I've known people who've been victims of sexual assault, and usually they don't want to keep going back to see their rapist over and over again and getting him to pay their tuition. Was this a money thing? Was this kind of an agreement? Like, was the payment, was that the compensation to kind of say, okay, you know what, I'm willing to look past this. I won't spread your dirt if you don't spread my, like what does that mean? What does that mean? If my daughter told me that, like, oh yeah, this guy raped me, and I kept going to see him, and he was paying my tuition, and he was sending me money on a regular basis, I would say to her, like, I don't think you should do that. But that doesn't mean that the rape did not occur, right? So then you got to go back to that, right? So that's what I do in my head. In case you want to wonder why I seem half crazy, is because literally I have these debates in my head where I'm looking at point, counterpoint, back and forth. Because as a teacher, as a college professor, which is pretty much what I did. I started teaching my first college class when I was 22 years old. You just become like a judge. You don't really look for an agenda, a political agenda. You feel intellectually, you feel like you're cheating. It's like intellectual cheating when you sort of start a problem thinking that you already know the answer, or when you make a decision knowing what the outcome is going to be in advance. But that's what politics is. You know, if you look at Democrats and Republicans, Democrats always start their conversation about Republicans by concluding that Republicans are wrong and they're right, no matter what. It's like me starting a math equation and you saying, well, what's 9 times 2 plus 27 divided by 3 raised to the 4th power? And I say, well, the answer is going to be 7. And you say, well, how do you know the answer? You haven't done the equation yet. No, the answer is going to be 7. So what does that mean? That means that after I do all the math, then I'm going to do whatever needs to be done at the end to make it equal. If the answer is 24, I'm going to throw in a fudge factor. I'm going to subtract 17 so that the answer is 7. And I can say, see, I told you the answer was 7. It was 7 all along. And that's what you get in politics. That's why I can't do politics. I think it's stupid. The debates irritate me. I don't talk to politicians. I used to get calls from the White House, but eventually it didn't take them long to learn that I'm not the guy to call, because I'm just not. You just feed me bullshit, I'm gonna spit bullshit right back in your face. So anyway, jumping over to Cosby a little bit further, you then have to throw in, obviously, the racial dynamic of, okay, how do you compare Cosby to all the other pedophiles, all the pedophiles and rapists and everything else in Hollywood? All these people, like Bryan Singer, the director of X-Men, was sued by a little kid who said that he was raping him the whole time, or something crazy like that, and that they were having these child sex parties in Hollywood. And I'm like, sexual assault's bad, doing something wrong with a grown woman, unacceptable, but I would say that raping a child is at least as bad and maybe worse, right? Why are y'all not going after that? Why are y'all not making an issue with that? And that's where the race comes into play. It's where you have 2 criminals, one's black, one's white, and you decide the black guy is the bigger criminal, and the white guy, oh yeah, we'll worry about that later, right? You can't do that, and that's the thing. Bill Cosby might be blind, but justice is supposed to be blind too. And so you can't really talk about the Cosby case without talking about the racial dynamic of all of this. I really think if Cosby was a beloved white man, they wouldn't be saying anything about this. This would be done. This would be swept under the rug. So if you're mad, black people, in my opinion, if you're mad, that's what you should be mad about. That a white guy does something, it's like, okay, it was bad. A black guy does it, it's like cut his balls off hanging from a tree, burn him alive, and kill his whole family and take all his money too. Like, that's where the injustice kind of really rears its ugly head. And it's hard to defend Cosby, in my opinion, without awkwardly positioning yourself as a person who could be defending a rapist. You don't have to defend a rapist to defend Bill Cosby. All you have to do is defend equity and justice. Justice does not mean that a person should be completely exonerated for what they did wrong. Justice means that the punishment should fit the crime without regard to race. And that's what black people don't have. So moving on. The other interesting thing, when you look at white folks, the funny thing about white people that's so amazing to me is when they kind of get this mob mentality, they have this. In fact, before I talk about the white people's mob mentality, let me write that down so I don't forget. Because you get to be 45, you literally will forget something like 30 seconds after you mention it. Two quick things. Number one, if you're watching on social media, please hit the share button. I want to get y'all in the habit of helping me out with this. So hit the share button, share it to your personal page if you think other people should be chiming in on the conversation, or they might enjoy it. Also, if you haven't picked up a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, go do that. Write this down. It's at drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And then the third thing I want to mention to you guys is actually Hidden Colors 4 is out. I'm in Hidden Colors 4, looking quite handsome, by the way. And Tariq did an amazing job with this film. Jim Brown is in it, and a lot of really smart people. And it's literally the biggest blackbuster of all time. To me, I came up with that term blackbuster to be a blockbuster that's made by black people, that's independently black. You got a lot of stuff that pretends to be black, but it ain't really black. That's basically stuff where they put a black face on it, like Jay-Z owning the New Jersey Nets. Jay-Z ain't never owned no New Jersey Nets ever. He on 1/1500th of the team, so 1/15th of 1% of the team, and they did that deliberately to fool you into thinking he was the owner, so they would get you to support it because you thought you were buying black when really you're handing your money over to a white guy. So anyway, Tariq it's a blackbuster. Tariq made it himself, put up his own dough. I respect the man immensely. He's a friend. We text every day almost. Love that brother. Have a lot of respect for everything he's done. So even if you ever see me and Tariq fight and disagree, don't worry. We still cool. We know how to disagree like men and walk away and say, okay, I think you're full of shit, but you're still my man. We have to still stick together. That's the relationship I have with Tariq Nasheed, and I just want to tell you guys that. So please go support his film. We're actually one of the distributors of the film. Again, black people partnering together. That's what you do to build empires. You come together, you form kingdoms. So if you want to buy Hidden Colors, you can buy the whole set at hiddencolors1234.com. You can type in the numbers 1234, Hidden Colors 1234.com. And if you want to get just Hidden Colors 4, you can go to hiddencolorsbundlepack.com. That's hiddencolorsbundlepack.com. And the bundle pack consists of a free class in the Black Business School, e-copies of 4 of my books, as well as a lecture that Tariq gives in the Black Business School where he talks about how he built his company. And I think that's important to understand, because we gotta build. Black people have to build things. Stop going out begging for jobs and thinking that you done made it because some white man allows you to work for him. That's not the same as actually having something of your own. You can't pass that job to your kids. I hate to break that to you. All right, so going back to white people, we were discussing white people, weren't we? All right, so going back to white folks and the mob mentality of racist white people. I'm not talking about every white person. I'm talking about racist white people. So those are two different things. So if you're white and you want to be offended, please don't start now. Basically, what's interesting to me is that white supremacy seems to breed this very interesting mob mentality where it doesn't necessarily get dropped on all of us just because we're black. The mob mentality, kind of gets dropped on us if they think that we're a bad person, right? So if you're black and you are in alignment with white supremacy, in full compliance, like you work for the corporation and you're the good Negro on the job and you never cause any trouble, then you're not really going to get hit by the white mob mentality. Even 100 years ago, if you were a good Negro, white people really didn't mess with you. They might actually, they'll let you breastfeed their damn kids. I mean, somebody gotta like you to let you breastfeed their kids, right? What would happen is when you deviate, it's just like an animal in the zoo. If I have a pet gorilla, I'm gonna treat the gorilla just fine, have him in his cage, feed him every day, because I'm making money off the gorilla. Everything's good. The gorilla's not acting up. I give him his food every day. People get to come see the gorilla. I love the gorilla. I might even pet him, right? But when the gorilla gets out of line, that's when we have a problem. If the gorilla decides, hey, wait a minute, you living outside the cage, I want to be outside the cage too, then the gorilla's going to get shot. Or if the gorilla's like, I don't like the food you giving me, I'm not going to eat, and and when you come in here, I'm gonna kick your ass. Well, the gorilla's going to get shot, right? And so for black people, we're kind of like the gorilla. When we are accepting of our subordinated position in American society, when we're fully comfortable with the way white people are treating us, and we go around and we say, I'm voting for Trump because I want to make America great again, and etc. I believe white people love us as much as they love their own, almost, because you've accepted your role. Like in Hidden Colors 4, I allude to this, that they love us like the family dog. White people love the hell out of their dogs. You've seen that. White people will kill you over their dog. But they never ever assume that the dog is like a member of the family. If they have a choice between saving the dog and saving their child, the dog's just gonna have to die. The dog can't sit at the dinner table. The dog is not an equal. So ultimately, sometimes relationships, tranquility of a relationship comes down to you accepting your subordinated position in a hierarchy. As long as you know your place, then we good. So with the Cosby thing and the OJ thing, what I really saw was this an interesting outrage. OJ Simpson, 20 years ago. I really saw kind of like this interesting white mob mentality outrage that comes when white people kind of feel like you got away with some shit, or you jumped out of your play, you did some stuff that is not acceptable. It would be okay. Like if one of us did it, we would deal with it one way. But the fact that you did this too, and you did this to us, we're going to bend every rule. We're going to show you that all this alleged structure and these so-called laws that you think that we live under, that all these things bend and shift based on how we feel. Oh, we gave your black ass civil rights. Oh, watch us take that shit away from you, and we'll show you that those civil rights that you think that you have is really an illusion. And that's what they do. They'll change the statute of limitations like they did on Cosby. I mean, let's just be real. If this man allegedly did this stuff back 30, 40 years ago and there's no physical evidence and you believe in the justice system, then you can't prosecute. That's the conclusion. That is the fundamental conclusion. You can't prosecute. That's your rule, right? But when they decide they want to bend their own rules, they do it. That's what they do. So with Cosby, that's what I saw. I saw a mob mentality, just like with OJ, where they were like, we're going to bend every rule, we're going to break every statute, we're going to turn over every stone, we're going to stretch every lie, we're going to do whatever we got to do in order to make sure that that nigga pays for what he did to white women. And it has to do with white women. There's no group in America more protected in this society than the white female. So and that's why, and it shows in a lot of statistical demographics. White women, even when they commit the same crimes, they're the least likely to go to prison. Why? Well, because the judge has a psychological bias. He's thinking, this poor little feeble, blonde-haired, beautiful white girl is going to have a hard time in prison. Oh, but that hardened, big buck Negro, fine, send him away. Let him get raped every day. It's not a big deal because black people don't feel pain. That's what they believe. They believe black people don't feel pain. So when you look at OJ, same thing. OJ won fair and square. It almost reminds me of and it was such a tragic story. It makes me think about, and this happens, I can think of 1,000 examples like this. It's almost like when you compete against somebody on a square level playing field and you beat them, and then they get mad, so they come and get you afterward. You know what I mean? Like that poor little girl who was battle rapping against the dudes. I don't know what state it was in. I can't remember. But she ate them up in the battle rap. She tore the dudes up. I mean, just wore them out. And these dudes were so mad, so humiliated that after it was over, they found the girl and they beat her and they raped her and they murdered her. And the reason they did that was because they were like, bitch, who do you think you are? You're not going to do that to us. We're going to show you who's really in charge. And so it's unfortunate that we live in that kind of world, but that's what I really see with the Cosby thing. That's what I saw with OJ. It was, the white mob kind of saying, nigga, who do you think you are? You can't go kill a white woman and get away with it. So I personally think, if you want my conclusion, you see me talking about Cosby and all this, and it's hard. It's a hard conversation because people want to get mad. But see, that's the problem with black. That's what y'all got to stop doing, man. Y'all just worship celebrities sometimes, like to the point where you think they can't do no wrong, or where you can't critically analyze somebody. Now I know you looking for heroes. I know you are, but understand, celebrities ain't nothing but black people who've been validated by white people and put on TV. That's what it is. Most people that are defined as quote unquote successful black people ain't nothing but niggas that they just put on TV. And the people, if you want to really, and I shouldn't say niggas, I'm sorry, I said that word, that was bad. But if you really want to find black people you should admire, in my opinion, I admire people who fight for the freedom of black people, those who are connected to the black community in meaningful, significant, consistent ways, in a way that benefits the masses. I look at a Louis Farrakhan and say that's one of my heroes right there. Not because I agree with everything the minister says or does. I could probably come up with a list of things about the minister that I don't agree with, but it's because I see that he's in it. He's there for me. He's there for us. You know what I mean? If some shit really goes down and you're really gonna, they're really putting it to you. A lot of these black people on TV ain't gonna be there for you. Celebrities ain't gonna be there for you. These punk ass politicians ain't gonna be there for you. But Farrakhan will be there for you. The Nation of Islam will be in your neighborhood, even if the police won't come down there. So that's where you gotta, kind of grow up a little bit and stop worshiping the wrong people. Why would you worship somebody just because they got a TV deal? I mean, do you understand how much cooning that they have to do in Hollywood to get these Jewish and white controlled studios to even give them an opportunity? So the very people they're putting in front of you as your heroes and role models are the exact people who should not be your heroes and role models. I don't know how Jesse Williams got through the pack, because Jesse Williams, I'm gonna tell you, they got a mark on his head already. Don't be surprised if you don't see Jesse Williams in a major production for the next 30 years, because that brother's gonna get blackballed by white and Jewish Hollywood. But maybe in the black community there'll be a place for him. The thing about it though is that Jesse, or whomever it is, has to have enough self-esteem to still feel successful even if white people kick him out the door. And that's what happens. We have a hard time feeling successful if we've been rejected by white people, the people we admire and put on a pedestal. Why do you put them on a pedestal? You put them on a pedestal because they have money. Right? So if you go to Hollywood, you'll find celebrities who will consider themselves successful if they're in a major production sponsored by Paramount Pictures or Universal and all this, even if they shucking and jiving. But if they're doing something with black people, they look at it like, oh, that's the Chitlin circuit. I'm making less money. It ain't real. It's something I'm doing until the big studios discover me. No. When you're with your people, that's when you're keeping it real. That's when you're 100%. That's when you're at your best. That's when you're successful. And we've got to practice that, but we don't feel that way because we don't care about ourselves. We don't respect ourselves. We really think that we're nothing but a cheap substitute for the real thing, and we think white people and what they have is the real thing. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bounce out, for the night. I enjoyed talking to you guys. Thank you for joining me so late at night. Don't forget, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, please visit drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. Also, if you want a copy of the Hidden Colors series, which you should have in your home for your children, go to hiddencolors1234.com. That's hiddencolors1234.com. If you want to put your children in our wealth building program for kids, you can go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. So we got a whole lot of stuff for you. We don't just talk. I'm not just a talker. We're a doer. We're doers. We're builders. We're developers. And everything we're doing right now is going to be legendary. I'm telling you. In 50 years, the fact that you're even here, you'll be able to brag to your grandkids that you were here. You'll be like, I was there when it all began. And they'll be like, Grandma, you lying. You wasn't really there. You didn't march with Dr. Watkins. And you're going to be like, yes, I did. I got a screenshot, right? And so just, I'm being silly. And it won't be about me, though. It won't be me. I'm not going to be the Martin Luther King type, but it'll be about a movement. It'll be the movement that your grandchildren will remember as the place where it all really started. When 2016, 2015, 2018, that's what they're going to remember. So cherish these moments. This is where it's at. You're in the right place. It ain't on mainstream TV. It's right here. This is where the good soul food is cooked. All right, guys. So you take care, and I will talk to you soon. And have a good night. Love you. Peace.